I never thought I'd have to say this out loud. 3 people trespassed on my land and assaulted my wife over a fence hinge. Yeah, a goddamn hinge. They said it violated HOA perimeter standards. I said it was none of their business. But the only thing that really got reinforced that day was the line they should have never crossed. Let me rewind. Let me take you back to where it all started. Have you ever witnessed something so wrong, so visceral, so violently close to home that your brain just checks out? Like your soul steps outside for a smoke and forgets to come back? That's what happened to me that morning when 2 men from the HOA enforcement team strolled up to our ranch gate and one of them straight up punched my wife in the face. I was 20 feet away, coffee in hand, watching. It began with Tessa's voice. Calm, low, cold, tight like a fuse right before it burns out. You're not allowed to step onto our land without a warrant. I glanced up from the porch, halfway focused on a busted rail. My coffee had gone cold. The sun wasn't even all the way up yet. That's when I saw them. 2 guys. Mirrored sunglasses. Tactical polos 2 sizes too tight. Swagger like cheap cologne. One had a clipboard. The other just had tension rolling off his shoulders like he was waiting for permission to strike. We're authorized to enforce code compliance, the short one said, tapping the plastic badge on his chest like it wasn't something he'd printed off at Kinko's the night before. For a hinge. Tessa snapped. You're threatening us over a fence hinge? She stood her ground. Boots planted. Hands on her hips. Her hair pulled back so tight not a single strand showed fear. The tall one stepped forward, boots scraping gravel. His hands moved in that way people do when they want you to think they're still being polite, but their body's begging for a fight. Last warning, ma'am. Tessa didn't even flinch. Not resisting. Just disagreeing. Then he hit her. No signal. No escalation. Just a fist that whipped out and cracked against her cheek like a whip. The sound of it split the wind. Her body twisted midair before she slammed into the gravel. It looked like someone had yanked the bones out of her all at once. I dropped the mug. Ran. But it was over by the time I reached her. Blood on her lip. One eye blinking slow, unfocused. Gravel stuck to her cheek. Her palm scraped raw where she'd tried to brace. She wasn't crying. And that made it worse. She got physical, the tall one muttered, flat as concrete. I responded with appropriate force. Appropriate. I whispered. My voice came out smaller than I meant it to. My fists clenched. My knees bent. But I didn't move. Couldn't. My ribs locked. My chest felt like it was wrapped in barbed wire. I wanted to lunge. Wanted to throw them both through the gate. But my mind went somewhere else. 8 years old. Cold linoleum. Mom's back to me at the stove, trying to fix something before he noticed. He noticed. He didn't even raise a hand, just gave her a look that made me flinch. And when she reached for the spoon she dropped, he said it. See what you made him do. I'd stepped forward once. Said, stop. That silence that followed, it taught me never to try again. Now here I was. Grown. Trained. Armed. And frozen. Tessa sat up slowly. You saw that. Her voice cracked in a way that made my stomach curdle. I nodded. Couldn't speak. So why the hell didn't you stop it? Her words cut deeper than the punch had. I had no answer. Because the truth was worse than silence. Then I heard a voice across the road. Hey! It was our neighbor, Curtis. Ex-Marine. Beekeeper. Amateur drone pilot. Local chaos gremlin. An unofficial town doomsday prepper. He stood on his porch shirtless, holding binoculars in one hand and a cereal bowl tucked under his other arm like a newborn koala. Tessa, you good? She gave him the smallest nod. That's what I figured. You've always had a mean right hook even when it's just words. The 2 men didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. Didn't even look at him. Just turned and walked back to their UTV like they'd dropped off mail. Then came the SUV. Dust cloud. Chrome. Custom plate. HOA sticker front and center like a warning label. Out stepped the queen herself. If Botox and lawsuits had a baby, it'd dress exactly like Veronica. Blonde. Pressed. Perfect. Untouched. She looked at Tessa lying in the gravel. Me standing over her. And gave us the same look she probably gives expired yogurt. I assume you'll want to file a complaint. The board's email is on the newsletter. Check your spam folder. She tapped her phone like she was RSVPing for brunch. Curtis muttered, She makes Emperor Palpatine look like a guidance counselor. Then louder, "Don't worry. I'll be listening to the police scanner in case she calls in a drone strike." She didn't reply. Just climbed back into her SUV and peeled off like civil liberties were optional. Tessa stood slowly, one arm over her ribs. I reached out. She flinched not much, just enough. And it gutted me. She walked back inside, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding in what little she had left. And I just stood there holding nothing but an empty mug. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the porch with a bottle of bourbon by my boot, a knife across my lap, and stared at the spot in the gravel where she'd fallen. Curtis showed up around midnight. 2 beers. Ham radio. Tapped into their HOA comms, he said. "They're calling you non-compliant. Want to hear the codes?" I didn't speak. He handed me a beer. After a long sip, he said, "Sometimes it's not the punch that breaks you. It's the one you didn't block." Then he left. I sat there until sunrise, white-knuckled, knife in hand. Not because I planned to use it, but because it was something sharp I could still control. They walked away like it was nothing. And I let them. But they'd only get to make that mistake once. You'd think after a man punched my wife on our land someone would get arrested. Fired. Cancelled. At least show up in a meme. But nothing. No apology. No knock at the door. Just silence. 2 days later, we got a notice. Hand-delivered. Not mailed. A teenager in a neon vest, HOA courier scrawled on the front in Sharpie, handed me the envelope like it was radioactive. "Have a better day," he muttered. Inside, violation of Section 18A, unregistered livestock containment alteration. $275 fine due in 72 hours if the gate is not brought to HOA uniform standard. Same fence. Same hinge. Same rage. Tessa read it. Didn't say a word. Placed it on the counter like a scalpel, opened the fridge, pulled out an ice pack, and pressed it to her still bruised cheek. I followed her. "Tessa, don't. One word." Steel-threaded. She opened a drawer. Moved a spoon. Closed it. Opened it again. Swapped 2 forks. Not angry. Not sad. Just gone. She started organizing the spice rack. Alphabetical. Precise. I couldn't stand the sound of those jars clicking. "You hungry?" I asked. "I ate earlier." "I didn't see you eat." She looked at me, straight through me. "You didn't see a lot of things." That night she moved into the guest room. Didn't say why. Didn't have to. Karen, meanwhile, was thriving. She posted an HOA update titled Operation Neighborhood Order. Q2 Security Realignment. Daily compliance patrols. Mandatory perimeter harmony inspections. Unauthorized gate designs and reflective livestock tags would be cited. They weren't hiding it anymore. This wasn't about fences. This was about control. The next morning, 2 new enforcers circled our property. Tactical vests. Clipboards. Aviators. Circling. Measuring. One smiled at me. "Just checking buffer compliance. You're real close to the limit." "So are you," I said. Curtis dubbed them the Hagestapo. They cited him for bunker symmetry violations. He waved the ticket like a badge of honor. I told them the only thing obstructing aesthetics around here is Veronica's soul. Later that night, I sat in the barn with every HOA notice we'd ever received stacked in front of me like war trophies. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for a pattern. A loophole. A plan. And that's when I realized this had never been random. They weren't reacting. They were provoking. And I'd been frozen. But not anymore. The man who watched them hit my wife? He wasn't coming back. They thought I was broken. But all they did was remove the brakes. And now I was planning.